The Cubs are streaking. Do we have an MVP on the Northside? And we get the All-Star game. How awesome is that? We'll get into that. We'll get into Matt Shaw's return and a whole lot more in an action-packed, jam-packed episode of the Northside. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Northside 9 on this beautiful Saturday in Chicago. I reside in northwest suburbs, so not quite Chicago, but close enough. How you doing, Kyle?
Doing good, man. How are you doing?
How's that neck feeling? Is it getting better?
Shoulder. Nah, I'm probably gonna have to go to the doctor next week, Sean. I'm thinking it might be a surgery situation.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna pray that it's not, and hopefully they can get you back off of the IL, so to speak. Speaking of that, before we get into this, the Cubs did make a move, sending my boy, and I wish he would have stuck with the club, but unfortunately he didn't, as the Cubs reinstated Ryan Brazier from the 15-day DL and opted Ethan Roberts back to AAA Iowa. News from Iowa, Keegan Thompson got placed on the injured list as well. I tried to dig into that, and I could not find what happened to him as of yet. So we'll have to get back. I'll have to make a post and keep everyone updated on Mr. Keegan Thompson down at AAA Iowa. But holy mackerel, what kind of fireworks did we have in the Queen City last night? Just when it looked like Hunter Green was cruising and just smoking through this lineup, this guy, PCA, turns it on his ear. But it was what? Was it the third time through the order? I can't remember. It was the fourth inning. So, yeah, I think it was the third time through the order that he got to see him. And the Cubs kind of turned the pages on Mr. Hunter Green. And, going in, we're down by a couple of runs here. PCA doing PCA things last night, hitting his first career grand slam. And the Cubs kind of took off from there. Kyle, it's time, man. It's 100% time. I think he's entering this rarefied air of the MVP talk in the entire league. What are your thoughts here? I'm going to throw some stats up on PCA right here at the bottom. You can see where he ranks in the NL. He's 11th in OPS, 3rd in slugging, 2nd in RBIs, 4th in home runs, 3rd in stolen bases, and 2nd in runs on the year. He is absolutely a madman. Kyle, talk to me, Goose.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, you can't talk NL MVP without including Pete Crow Armstrong's name. I mean, right now he is the best player in the National League. As a matter of fact, we could talk about all the stuff he's done all season, all day, but just since May 6th to May 23rd, this guy has 6 RBI games, 9 home runs, 21 RBIs, 6 stolen bases in 18 games. I mean, the list of records that this guy is setting, especially for the Cubs, just goes on and on and on and on. And you start to see his name in conversations with people the likes of Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds. I mean, Sean, I'm not saying that he could sustain the success. I'm not saying that that's realistic, but it's pretty obvious now that PCA is going to be a very good player in baseball for a very long time. I wouldn't really consider him a prospect anymore. I think pretty much what you see is what you get. Yeah. And you add on to the fact that he's hitting for power and he's an absolute hitting machine, onto the fact that, Sean, he's not only just one of the best center fielders in all of baseball, and he's not just one of the best base runners in all of baseball. He has the best defensive arm on the Chicago Cubs as well. I mean, he could throw you out at home from center field. This guy is an MVP. He is a superstar. And like I've said many a time, not to go down a rabbit hole here, Sean, but if the Cubs come out to the fan base and tell everybody, hey, we're only paying one guy, somebody's leaving, somebody's staying, I'm taking PCA over Kyle Tucker all day, man, just solely based off of the youth. And I love Kyle Tucker. You know, I'm a huge Kyle Tucker fan. And he's proven that he is a superstar in baseball as well. He's had more success for a longer period of time, but PCA has more potential.
Yeah, I have not. I have not bought the Tucker jersey yet. I did get that freaking awesome King Tuck shirt that they did with the playoff, the playing card. But that's about all I'm going to spend that $30 because there is a good chance, especially Kyle made a comment to me earlier backstage before we hopped on the air, that his agent is saying he wants $600 million next year. That's killing me, man. I don't. I mean, I guess some team will pay it. I don't know that I see that for the Cubs, and maybe there's some way they can negotiate out of that. One thing I did find scouring the internet today was interesting. Pete Crow Armstrong's last 34 games, he has 9 doubles, 3 triples, 14 home runs, 40 RBIs, and 8 stolen bases. Folks, that's history, and I'm going to tell you why as soon as I clear this off. It says no other MLB player has reached all of those marks over any 34-game span since the RBI became an official stat in 1920, and that's per Opta Stats, where I found that this morning scouring the internet. I mean, I'm going to assume this is true, and if it is, it's just another mark of what this guy's doing, and you see through his 51 games this season, 287, 319, 589. He's got a 908 OPS, a 150 WRC plus, 14 dingers, 45 RBIs, 14 stolen bases, a 3.3 WAR. And when you start putting them with the best players in baseball, look at these WAR leaders. Look at who's number 2. Will he ever catch up to Aaron Judge? I doubt it because that guy's an absolute machine. But this is something I don't think anybody saw coming. When we were hoping for progress. What we're seeing is a breakout elite superstar that I don't know that baseball's ready for, man. He's must-see TV, can't miss. And Kyle, would you say ever since Jed Hoyer slapped that $75 million contract in his face, this guy has turned into a bona fide NL MVP? I mean, I don't even know what to say anymore. He's appointment television.
Yeah, I mean, what you could say, Sean, is that $75 million contract extension offer was an absolute insult and a joke. And this guy, if you talk about somebody in the Cubs who's worth $600 million, it's Pete Crow Armstrong. I mean, you could talk about, I just said, Sean, you put up the worst numbers there for Aaron Judge. And obviously, WAR leans heavily on offense because if you took the 2 players as a whole, their base running, their defense, their offense, Aaron Judge and Pete Crow Armstrong are a lot closer than that. I mean, it should be like 4.4 and 4.3 because PCA is better in the outfield than Aaron Judge. He's better on the base paths than Aaron Judge, and he's probably got just as strong of an arm as Aaron Judge from the outfield. So, excluding the home runs, PCA is is it like Sean? You called him 5 or 7 tool players. He is the best in baseball, I think, and. You know what, Sean? Sooner or later, I know Cubs fans don't want to hear this, but if you're thinking about the future of this team, and if the Cubs think there's any slight chance at all that they're not going to pay Kyle Tucker, you need to seriously think about trading him. I mean, because if you let him walk at the end of the season, you're not willing to give him fork over $600 million for Kyle Tucker, you're talking about just losing 3 prospects for nothing. That's basically what they do. And you know what? People could go, oh, well, if the Cubs keep this team together, maybe they have a small chance at a World Series, a 5-10% chance in the World Series. Sean, how do you think Mets fans are feeling about the Javier Baez, Pete Crow Armstrong trade right now? I bet you they wish they would have traded Javier Baez in the middle of the season and got something back for him because they just gave us PCA for nothing. And we did the same thing with Cam Smith to the Astros if we don't extend Kyle Tucker.
And Bruce just said Cubs Zone just put up a stat. PCA joined Barry Bonds with 14 home runs and 14 stolen bases through the first 51 games of a season. I mean, that's like I said, I don't even know what to say anymore. And when he was offered that contract and he said no, he bet on himself. And what a bet. That is the best bet I've seen in a long time for a player taking a chance on himself. I was looking at this. Kyle Tucker's number 11 in WAR. He's at 2.2. If the Cubs could have pulled off this Bregman deal, he's sitting above Kyle Tucker at 10, at 2.5. This offense might have been unstoppable if they could have pulled this
and
off.
Sean, we still don't know the ceiling for Matt Shaw. I mean, Matt Shaw ended up being an Alex Bregman type player. He's certainly looked good since he's been back from AAA. I mean, like we talked about in the past, Sean, Matt Shaw was projected by some prominent baseball writers to be the NL MVP. So I believe that that star power is still there. You just have to be patient. Sean, last 2 years, I was like, man, PCA is coming along too slowly. What's with the hitting? This guy can't hit to save his life. He looked like he's never taken a major league at bat. And you were like, patience, patience, patience. I mean, the same can be said for Matt Shaw. I can see the star potential in Matt Shaw for sure. He's a major league baseball player who's going to be really good at some point in his career. It's just going to take some time.
Yeah, and it seems as though we're going to just get into this Matt Shaw thing because I really wanted to talk about this. And really quick, before we move on to Matt Shaw, the beginning of the game, the way it started with Matthew Boyd probably having his worst start as a Chicago Cub last night, and he was able to work his way through that very tough first inning, but it started giving me flashbacks of last year. The Cubs finished 5-8 versus the Reds. They pounded us into the ground. And Kyle, remember yesterday I was talking to you about Spencer Steer and Matt McLean, and they're having, batting 178 and 202. What did they do against the Cubs yesterday? 5 for 9. These guys just love the Cubs and love to kick our ass. Spencer Steer was the big guy. I think he was 3 for 5, and McLean was, I think, 1 for 5 yesterday. But combined, those two guys just love to murder the Chicago Cubs. So hopefully we can slow down that train. But the one thing, Matt Shaw, he did go 0 for 5 yesterday, so this is a little skewed. But this was his return series. From the minor leagues. And, since he's come back, it's been really nice to see. And if you noticed, even yesterday when he was up, he's pulling the ball, he's using the other side of the diamond. And that's a good thing, man. He's getting these sliders down the middle, off to the side of the plate, and he's turning on them and hooking them the other way. And that just goes for me with letting me know that he's getting a little bit deeper in the box. The ball's getting a little bit deeper on the barrel, and he's able to turn on that ball, drive it to the opposite field. This is something that they wanted to work on. They also wanted to work on his head movement. If you go back to before the month that he spent in the minors, his head was moving with his swing. One thing we know for sure is you have to see the ball to hit the ball. Okay. And the other problem was that leg kick that he had. You see, he shortened that leg kick. He's back deeper in the box now. He's seeing the pitches a little bit longer, and he's starting to turn on them. So these were all really good things. So sometimes when, you get these players that you have to send back down to the minor leagues that have to make some key adjustments like he just did, spending that month down there working. Now he gets to come back up he was working with Justin Turner before he went down. Now he has Dustin Kelly's expertise. So I expect Matthew Shaw to continue to progress. The question is, sometimes it's hard to break old habits. Do you think some of these adjustments that he made are sustainable for long-term use in Major League Baseball?
Well, not only do I think it's sustainable, Sean, I think it's going to get better. I mean, I still think there's some flaws in his swing. I still think there's some flaws in his stance, and eventually he will fix them and get better. Like I said, this is a work in progress. The Cubs fans should, after seeing what happened with PCA, we should be preaching patience, and it shouldn't take Cubs fans too much convincing to just be patient with these guys. I mean, like I said, if you look at their minor league careers, or at least their minor league status, Matt Shaw was probably projected to be the best of the Cubs, and he's flew through the farm system. I mean, Matt Shaw was drafted, 2 years ago, and he's already a Major League Baseball player. Yeah, he's definitely opened that stance up a little bit. He had too much of a closed stance for me when he first got here. And like you said, Sean, you're kind of already second behind the ball when you have a closed stance like that. There's just so much more movement to your swing, and it's just something that's not sustainable in the major leagues. But yeah, he's already started to change a little bit. And I could expect it to continue to change, to adjust to major league pitching. But like you said, he went 0 for 5 yesterday. I mean, it's not like every player in baseball has a ton of success against Hunter Green. I mean, that guy's been absolutely amazing this season. He probably would have been in the consideration for NL Cy Young to this point in the season if it wasn't for one really bad game. Outside of that, he's been pretty damn good. I think Matt Shaw is good. He's looking more comfortable at third base every day, and he's going to get better.
Yeah, he's really flashing. He's really flashing some good leather. He had a couple of nice snares in Miami, down in South Florida, and then he's flashing good leather yesterday. He had a couple of key ground balls that came to him. I never really thought defense was his issue. It was just kind of figuring out that stance. And I know since day one, Kyle, you and I talking about like how weird that stance is, how his foot was pivoted in. But now that, like I said, now that he's just got that leg kick down a little bit, he's moving back a little bit in the box, and he's tracking the ball to the barrel of the bat and watching it hit the barrel of the bat. I think these were awesome adjustments that were made for him. You know, in I can't talk, in the minor leagues, and him being able to transfer those back to the major leagues has been really nice. And I know he went 0 for 5, and he's still going to have those nights. Let's be honest. Hunter Green is really damn good pitcher. And that just goes back to PCA. And I forgot to touch on this when we were talking about PCA. That grand slam, really quick, we're going to go back to Matt Shaw. But just to speak about how incredible that grand slam was, guys, there was 100-mile-per-hour fastball off of the plate that he was able to catch up to and drive. I mean, not a lot of – I mean, watch this pitch. Look at where it is. 100 miles per hour, almost out of the zone that he was able to – dude, that's incredible bat speed. That's an incredible icon. I mean, that home run in itself was amazing, but where that pitch location was, that he was able to catch up to that ball being so far off the plate, I mean, it was just slightly in the zone. But I bet you if you go onto MLB Stat Track and you go back and you look at that, I bet you that ball was outside the zone, because sometimes on marquee, the balls are in the zone, but then you go look on your Major League app, when they're on that borderline, they're actually outside the zone. I didn't go back and look last night, but nonetheless, to catch up to that 100-mile-per-hour fastball that far off the plate, drive it, that was insane to me. Just absolutely insane to me, man.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't say enough about Pico Armstrong, man. He's a superstar, no doubt about it. He's going to be one of the best players in baseball. And Sean, he might be the most marketable player in baseball outside of Ohtani. And the reason Ohtani would be number one is because he's one of the only players in baseball who can both pitch and hit. And he's a Japanese phenom. But outside of Ohtani, I'd be hard-pressed to find somebody more marketable than Pico Armstrong. I mean, when they were playing those 2 games in Japan to start the season against the Dodgers, you heard the Japanese fans chanting PCA, PCA. I mean, you're going to see PCA on the highlights on ESPN a lot. And like I said, Sean, I don't think this is like a flash in the pan. I think he's here to stay, and I think he's going to be a superstar in baseball for a long time. My only hope is that the Cubs could find a way to make him retire a Chicago Cub. I mean, too often we have talent in Chicago and we're not willing to pay him, and we watch him go be a superstar somewhere else. PCA needs to be the guy that is the face of the Cubs organization for the next 12 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, just to flip the script, I'm sorry I bounced. It just popped in my head about that pitch, and I meant to bring it up at the start. But, you know, going back to Matt Shaw, you know, the conundrum here was, you know, and we talked about this last week, or we talked about this, I think 2 weeks ago, Kyle, before he came back up. We were saying, hey, man, you know, this guy right here can't hurt us because he's better defensively than Birdie and Nicky Lopez. And all we have to do is get his bat fixed just a little bit, you know, and it seems as though, like I just said, his timing and balance seems to be a little bit better than coming up. Hopefully this is the long-term fix. And the thing I wanted to ask you, like, would you feel comfortable now, because we were all saying just about a week or 2 ago that the Cubs needed to make a move at third base. But now we're looking at some pitcher. Now we're looking at, we need some depth in the bullpen and maybe a frontline starter. If you're the Cubs saying, hey, we want to make a deep playoff run into October, Kyle, what are your thoughts on, all right, I think we're going to leave third base as is. Let's focus on this pitching and get this pitching right. Start front-end starter or relief pitching, whichever the Cubs feel they need, which I think they need both. But would you be comfortable saying the next 111 games, we're going to leave him at third base and we're not even going to look on the market for a third baseman?
Yeah, I would do the same thing I did with PCA in the outfield last year. I'd just leave him there and let his game develop and let him get more comfortable with major league pitching and continue to improve. Like I said, if you look at Matt Shaw before the season and his prospect rankings, by all accounts, he was supposed to be one of the best players in baseball when it's all said and done. And I'm not talking about like Aaron Judge or PCA or Ohtani, but I mean, this guy is the guy who, by all accounts, every single major league expert that I listened to or read about said, this is a major league hitter. This guy is ready to play in the major. He was ready. He could have been playing in the majors the second he came out of college. He's just good at hitting the ball. Sean, if the defense comes along at third base, if he continues to make those flash plays at third base, then you're talking about a guy who has there's a chance he could be one of the best Chicago Cubs for the next 10 years. You might not be talking about PCA and Kyle Tucker. You might be talking about PCA and Matt Shaw as the face of the Cubs for the next 10 years. And Sean, in terms of the pitching staff or how close do I think this team is to a World Series, I think they're Justin Steele and Shota Imanaga away from being a serious World Series contender. That's what I think they are. Here's the problem, though. The Cubs have put themselves in a position when they wouldn't go out and sign a guy like Max Fried and make a realistic run at one of those star pitchers in the offseason. Now they're at a point where how much of this future are you willing to part with? Are you willing to lobby to go add a pitcher to make a run at the World Series this year? You've already lost a guy in Cam Smith, probably one of your best prospects, to acquire Kyle Tucker. And now you're talking about trading away some more of this young talent in your farm system. Oh, yeah, and Sean, I don't know if you've been watching, but Owen Casey and Kevin Alcantara have been tearing it up down there as of late. Yeah. So, I mean, one of these guys, it's going to break the Cubs' hearts apart with one of these guys. But, yeah, if you want to prove to the fan base that you're in the run for a World Series and you think you're a World Series contender, yeah, at some point you're going to have to trade one of these guys for a starting pitcher. And if I'm the Chicago Cubs, right now, for me, Sean, personally, I don't think this team is capable of winning World Series. So I'm thinking about the future. If I'm going to go trade for a starting pitcher, I'm trading for a guy who has control for the next few years, at least, minimum. And like I said, if you're thinking about the future, Sean, I know you don't want to hear this, but at some point the Cubs are going to have to answer this question. If you're thinking about the future and you don't think you're in a World Series in 2025, when do you start thinking about trading Kyle Tucker for a really good starting pitcher who could be in this rotation for the next 4, 5, 6 years?
Yeah, and the tricky thing that comes with that Kyle Tucker and moving Kyle Tucker during the season is, how do you think this fan base reacts when you're, essentially, 3 games up, 6.5 on Cincinnati now, and you trade, a guy who's 10th and more in the league, and pretty much you're not winning a World Series now. Like you've given up. If this guy comes out of the lineup, even though you have Pete Crow Armstrong, because I'm the big advocate that says, hey man, you look at some of these good teams, and maybe the exception to the rule might be the Detroit Tigers. Although they have some good prospects, I don't know that they have superstars. I mean, I love my boy Spencer Torkelson, but I don't know if they have the star power like, say, the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Padres or I don't even know that the Giants have these star players. But if the Cubs are going to compete, no Kyle Tucker means you've given up on the year, and that kind of sucks. That would kind of suck. But say you trade, and this is hypothetical because this is never going to happen, but if you're trading Kyle Tucker and you're getting a Paul Skeens back, can you still win those? Can you still win the World Series this year, putting Paul Skeens in Justin Steele's place? And when Shota gets back, which for all intents and purposes is his knee, he should come back and he should be fine and finish out the season.
Well, I can tell you this, it's not going to be Paul Skeens. But yeah, I mean, if you put a really, really good starter in front of that rotation, then yeah, I think the Cubs, Sean, at the end of the day, people always talk about the NFL, defense wins championships, offense wins games, but defense wins championships. Sean, pitching wins World Series. That's what wins World Series. Go look at the last 5, 6 teams to win the World Series. Or go look back at the 2015 Kansas City Royals on. Yeah. Every single team that's won the World Series not only has an amazing rotation, but have a damn good bullpen as well.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're going to run into some pitchers in the playoffs. They're going to shut this lineup down. No matter how much we love them, Kyle Tuckers, the PCAs, the Nico Horners, Ian Haps. At some point, they're going to run into pitchers who are going to shut this lineup down. It's going to happen. It happens to every good team. Sean, look at the Yankees. The Yankees were on. I think they set the home run record last year, and then they got in the World Series, and they just couldn't compete against that Dodgers rotation. They just couldn't compete against them. Pitching is more important than hitting in baseball nowadays, especially with these guys throwing 100, 101, 102, 103 miles an hour. As I'm just saying, as a Cubs fan, you're talking about a gauntlet once you make it to the playoffs. You're talking about, I don't know if you saw what Ronald Acuna did in his first pitch back, but the Braves are going to be forced to be reckoned with come the end of the season. The Phillies are going to be forced to be reckoned with come playoff time. The Dodgers, the Yankees. I mean, if Cubs fans have to ask themselves this question: is there a realistic chance that we can make it through every single one of these teams in the NL in the playoffs and then compete with a team like the Yankees in the World Series? I just don't think they have the pitching to do that right now. And like I said, if you want to be this penny pinching team that wants to win a World Series through your farm system instead of paying premium free agents, then at some point, if you're not going to pay Kyle Tucker, at some point I would think about trading him for the future of the team. I mean, Sean, if you say you trade Kyle Tucker this year, and like you said, you're basically forfeiting this season. You know you're not going to the World Series, and you trade Kyle Tucker for a Paul Skeens type guy, which we heard the Pirates GM come out yesterday and say Paul Skeens is not going anywhere. He's going to be the face of this franchise for the next 10 years. So obviously, it's not going to be Paul Skeens, but a pitcher of that caliber, a number one pitcher in baseball, your ace. And next season, you're talking about going into the season with Cade Horton, Justin Steele, Shota Imanaga, the pitcher that you add for when trading Kyle Tucker away. And then you say your fifth is, I mean, pick one. Jameson Tyon, Javier Side, Ben Brown, one of those guys, would be a damn good number 5 in baseball. And you continue to get the production you've gotten out of PCA, and Matt Shaw continues to grow, and you bring up another one of these young guys, and maybe Kevin Alcantara comes up here and is kind of that star caliber player, if not star, really, really good. I think your chances for winning World Series are much better next year than they are this year. I do. And it's no disrespect to Kyle Tucker, because I think he's an absolutely amazing player, and I can't overstate how important he's been to the Cubs this season. But if you don't have the pitching to win a World Series, what do you do? You're just going to let him walk at the end of the season because you don't want to fork over $600 million. Then you're getting nothing in return. And you could have had another superstar in outfield in Cam Smith if he ends up turning out to be the guy they think he's going to be.
Yeah, this is quite the conundrum for the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, it's not going to be popular amongst Cubs fans if the Cubs decide to trade him. But I mean, when his agent and an ex-NL or an ex-baseball GM and numerous prominent sports writers have come out and said this guy is asking for $600 million a year, we know the Cubs are not going to pay that. That's just not realistic. They maybe were in the conversation, Sean. We were talking about 350, 450. Maybe the Cubs are in the conversation. They're not in the conversation for Kyle Tucker at $600 million. Not a chance in hell.
And I mean, I was really hoping that it would stay in that 450 range, because I thought that was a spot where the Cubs could sign him and then maybe go to PCA and offer him $250 million. And then you have these two guys locked up, and you got two of the best baseball players in the league on the north side for quite some time. Although PCA is here for 5 more years, but he's the arbitration eligible in 2027. That'll be interesting. But by 2027, this is when I think before you avoid arbitration, you get PCA locked up for a long time here. It's really a conundrum, man. And I've been thinking about it. I was on the bandwagon of, hey, man, the Cubs are going to get this done. Like, they're going to sign this guy. They're going to make it happen. And now, with that $600 million coming out, I'm back flipping the script to the other side, saying, I don't know. I'm not sure.
And Sean, and you have to ask yourself, I know it's not our money, so of course we're like, oh, just sign everybody. It's not our money, it's the Cubs' money. But Sean, realistically, is Kyle Tucker worth $600 million? You mean you're talking about his bat, because he's certainly not special in the outfield. He's a good outfielder, but he's not.
He's a good outfielder.
He's not like top 5 in baseball. He's not a top 5 base runner in baseball. So you have the question you have to ask yourself: is Kyle Tucker's bat worth $600 million?
Yeah.
Here's the problem: is that Ohtani
when you compare him to Soto, though, and you look at what did Soto get? Because
that's what I was just about to say, Sean. So here's the problem. Is Ohtani reset the market with that $700 million contract, $700 million plus. He reset the market. But here's the problem. The Dodgers paid Ohtani $700 million because he's going to be a all-star caliber pitcher and an all-star caliber hitter. So the fact that the rest of these teams started to follow suit by paying guys like Juan Soto and Aaron Judge basically the same contracts, that kind of screwed the rest of baseball, because these guys should be getting paid for their offensive production, not for Ohtani does something that nobody else in baseball does. He does something that nobody else in baseball has done since Babe Ruth. This guy is going to have a sub 3.5 ERA as a pitcher and probably around 45, 50 home runs every single year in his career. And Ohtani is going to start pitching pretty soon here. The Dodgers have announced it. He's going to be back on the mound at some point soon. So you're talking about the unicorn. You're talking about the unicorn of baseball, a guy who does something nobody else in baseball can do. You're talking about somebody who's basically changed the sport. And now the rest of these teams are like, well, Ohtani got paid $700 million, so we got to pay Soto $700 million. Like, no, you don't. You don't have to pay Soto $700 million. I don't think Soto's worth $750 million. I think Soto should have got paid $400 or $500 million for his offense because he can't pitch. And now these teams are in a position where they have to fork out $600 million for a player like Kyle Tucker. I love Kyle Tucker, but do I think Kyle Tucker's bat's worth $600 million, Sean? No, I don't. And I wouldn't be upset if the Cubs decided to part ways with Kyle Tucker because they're not willing to fork over $600 million. Here's the question, like I've said now 3 times. This is the question the Cubs fans have to ask themselves. And of course, the casual Cubs fans are going to be mad if the Cubs trade Kyle Tucker.
Sure,
but real Cubs fans, the Cubs fans who are thinking about World Series, future, sustained success. I mean, at this point, if you know for a fact, if you're Jed Hoyer and you're Tom Ricketts, you know we're not going to give this guy $600 million. It's not going to happen. We don't have that money. We're not giving it to him. I'm trading him. Go get something back for him. Don't be the Mets who added Javier Baez as a rental player and gave away one of the best players in baseball in PCA for nothing. I mean, Sean, you think the Mets would be a better team right now if they had PCA in center field?
Oh, God, yeah.
I think they'd be a much higher in that conversation when you talk about the World Series. I mean, the Cubs did the same thing. They traded away Cam Smith for a 1-year rental and Kyle Tucker. If you know for a fact you're not going to extend him, like the Mets weren't going to extend Javier Baez, then trade Kyle Tucker for a starting pitcher that's going to be here for the next 4 or 5 years, or even Sean, a number 3 in the rotation and 2 really good bullpen pieces. I mean, some combination of pitching, because we know the Cubs aren't going to sign any of these pitchers in free agency, right? They've already proven that. They're not going to give a guy like Max Fried $200 million. It's not going to happen. They've proven that because they could have done it last year and they decided not to. So if that's the case, if they're going to continue to have this mentality like, oh, we're going to win the World Series through our farm system, then continue to add to the farm system. That's all you got. That's all you got.
Yeah, it's going to be, this is such a conundrum and such a, like, I don't know where to go with it because it's like, for me, giving up Cam Smith for 1-year rental, I think would be disastrous for the organization as a whole. But now that these numbers are coming out, you know, and when people do look at it, when you look at it, and I used to have the graph, and I think I took it down between comparing Soto and Kyle Tucker over the past 5 years, and Kyle Tucker was slightly better than Juan Soto. Juan Soto signs that 15-year, $765 million contract with an annual salary of $46 million. You're like, shit, this is what we're going to have to pay, you know? And that's
what I'm saying. They reset the market. But Sean, here's the difference.
But here, let me ask you this. If the Cubs were to come up with a 15-year deal, you know, because you know Soto's not going to be playing for 15 years. It's more or less stretching out the deal so they can afford it on the front.
You're deferring the money. Is
yeah,
what you're doing.
You have to figure out a way to get comfortable figuring that out, which doesn't seem like Tom Ricketts really wants to do something like that.
No, he's already said he does not want to defer money. He said they're still paying John Lester. They're still paying, I think it's Hayward, somebody else they're still paying. They don't want to continue to do that. But Sean, like you said, if these guys like Soto and Judge and Ohtani continue to get these contracts, you don't have an option. If the times are changing, you got to change with them. Here's the problem I have, though. Like I said, I'm going to say this again. Ohtani can be the leader in your rotation and the leader in your lineup. Ohtani, if you add a guy like Ohtani to your team, your chance, and he continues to produce on both the mound and at the plate, your chances of winning World Series go up dramatically. Basically, what you're doing, Sean, is you're paying 2 players in one, right? So you're paying your Max Fried and your Juan Soto and 1 player. Here's the problem now. All of a sudden, guys like Juan Soto, who don't pitch and is not 2 players in one, it's just 1 player, is getting paid $750 million. You think Juan Soto is capable of winning the Mets World Series on his own? No, he still needs a great starting rotation when it comes to pitching. Ohtani is a part of both of those. He gives you a great starter in your rotation and your pitching, even if he's your number 2 or 3, and he gives you your best hitter on the team. So your chances of winning a World Series increase drastically. Kyle Tucker, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, as much as they're all great players, and I love all of them, they're not the same guy. That's not the same guy. Paying Kyle Tucker $600 million is not going to make the Cubs immediate World Series contenders. They still have to build a pitching rotation that's dominant in baseball, followed by quite a few guys in the bullpen as well. I just don't. If you're gonna pay somebody $600 million, just get it out of the way and pay PCA now. Because I don't. If they give Kyle Tucker $600 million, they ain't paying PCA, Sean. There's not a chance in hell. There's no way in hell that's happening because PCA's ticket price tag just went from $75 million to $500 million. You're not paying both those guys. Sean, do you think the Cubs are going to be the team in baseball that are forking out the most money of any team in baseball? No, that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. That will never happen. That's the problem. It just stinks. The way that Ohtani got paid it was a disservice to the game of baseball. It didn't do anybody any favors because now all of a sudden these teams are like, well, the Mets said, we're like, oh, well, Ohtani got paid $750 million. So Juan Soto has to get paid $750. Like, no, you should have gone in those negotiations and been like, hey, you don't pitch. That's why Ohtani got $750 million because he's a unicorn. You don't pitch. So you've not earned $750 million. You're a $500 million player. But now the rest of baseball has to follow suit in this reset market. And they're starting to give these guys who are great offensive players $500, $600, $700 million, and it puts the rest of the teams who don't have that money in a really, really bad situation. And it Sean, ultimately, this could be really detrimental to the game of baseball. I could see a scenario in which the Dodgers win 6 of the next 10 World Series because they just continue to fork out all this money. Well, the rest of these teams, like the Rays, the Pirates, the Reds, these teams don't have that money. They can't go pay somebody 6. You think? I bet you once again, just like Garrett Cole and James Taillon and everybody else who's gone through that Pittsburgh organization, at some point, Paul Skeens is going to walk. Yep, yeah. He's going to walk, and he's going to go to a team like the Dodgers or the Yankees, and they're going to continue to dominate baseball for the foreseeable future until they implement a salary cap.
Now, let me ask you this, though. Say the Cubs, and this is kind of where my head was at with the whole Kyle Tucker PCA thing, because you have Shaw, and hopefully Shaw continues to develop into the player that we think he's going to be, a 280, 290 hitter, great glove at third base type guy, which he's projected to be in Major League Baseball. And it seems as though it's slowly happening. So we're good with that. So now you have your third baseman locked down. You got Michael Busch locked down. You got these guys here another 5-6 years. Now you have to make a decision. Ian Happ's going to be on his way out. He's an aging baseball player. He's really good. He's probably going to be here a couple more years. Maybe
I think one more year, Sean. I think one more year.
Yeah, and maybe he resigns. He's a lifelong Cub. Maybe he wants to retire here. I would be okay with re-upping Ian Happ, but it starts to beg the question: what do you mean?
At what cost? Yeah, at what cost? I mean, Sean, you can't be like, oh, let's keep Ian Happ here because we're a really big fan of him. We like him, and he should be a lifelong Cub. If Owen Casey and Kevin Alcantara are better, if they're better players, if they have more star potential, if they have potential of hitting 290 to Ian Happ's 260, and they have potential to hit 35 home runs to Ian Happ's 25, then you let Ian Happ walk and you bring those guys up here. That's the only way in World Series. You have to make this team. You have to maximize your potential.
This is where I was going with it. You have. So right now we're in 2025. So you got 5 more years. All right, can't get this thing work. You got 5 more years of control on PCA. Okay, so you re-up Tucker right now for 10 years, $600 million, $60 million a year. Now you're halfway through that deal by the time you have to re-up PCA. So if you don't re-up PCA in 2027 ahead of his arbitration eligible year and say, all right, let's go to arbitration. He'll probably win. Say he gets 25 million for the wins the arbitration. That's fine. Now you got him and you have him because you're not going to let PCA go. Is there a scenario in which you say, okay, 5 years into the $600 million deal, we have to make another decision on PCA, sign him to a big deal. So now you're halfway through one contract while you re-up the new contract because at the end of that deal, Tucker is done. He's not going to be worth as much anymore. I mean, this is it. This is his time to strike it rich. I'd say even if you sign him to a 10-year deal, you're looking probably at a 5-year window where he is the impact player in which he is right now. So do you see a scenario where the Cubs are thinking, foreshadowing and saying, hey, 5 years into the deal, we have to re-up this. We're going to move this money around. We can defer this or do that, even though Ricketts is saying he doesn't want to. At some point, Ricketts has to give in and start saying, hey, I'm going to pay these players and defer some money. Because you can't be this cheap bastard and then charge someone $40 for a bat of beer, for the love of Christ. So at some point, you have to keep these quality players on the field. So you have to figure out a way to work your money around. And if you can get halfway through one deal before you have to re-up another big deal, do you think that would be something that would work for the Cubs? I mean, because it's kind of the way I've been looking at it.
Well, you have to ask yourself numerous questions. First of all, if you're paying PCA and Kyle Tucker, then say goodbye to Michael Bush, say goodbye to Matt Shaw, say goodbye to all these guys because you're not paying everybody. You can't pay everybody, and that's no disrespect to the Ricketts or the Cubs. There's no team in the world that pays everybody. I mean, the Dodgers have let guys walk that they for a fact they wanted to be on that team. The Yankees wanted Juan Soto to be in New York, but you can't pay everybody. You got to pick and choose. So. How much of, once again, Sean, how much of these guys, if you pay Kyle Tucker, how many of these guys are willing to part ways with? I mean, if Matt Shaw ends up being a star, which I see potential there, I think Matt Shaw, I'm not saying a superstar. I'm not even saying maybe not even a star, but a really, 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 really good player.
Sure.
Then wouldn't you rather have the two 23-year-olds here for the next 15 years rather than paying the 28-year-old $600 million? If you know you can't pay all three of them, I would take the youth. I think if the more young guys the Cubs can lock up, guys like Michael Bush, guys like Matt Shaw, guys like PCA, the more youth they can lock up, the longer the championship window. And if you pay a guy like Kyle Tucker, what are you doing with your pitching staff? If you're saying, oh, we got to pay PCA, we got to pay Kyle Tucker, we got to maybe extend Michael Bush for a couple of years in 2028. Then where's the money for the pitching staff? We just talked about how the pitching is probably more important than hitting baseball in 2025. Yeah. Who are you? I mean, the pitchers want to get paid too. I think right now the highest paid pitcher for the Cubs is Matthew Boyd.
Yeah, it wouldn't be interesting, like, if we were Dodgers fans, we wouldn't even be having this conversation because we're like, you know what? He's going to figure out a way to keep all these guys here and keep this championship window. We're dealing with a cheap bastard, and we have to figure out. Like, we have to pick and choose between stars now. When we go down on the farm here in just a little bit on the show, I'm going to talk about a possible replacement for Michael Bush, because Michael Bush, for as much as I love him, and he's my favorite Cub right now, I love Michael Bush. He's in a little bit of a funk. His average has dropped to about 254 right now, but he'll come back around. I have plenty of confidence in Michael Bush, but Michael Bush is also 27 years old. So, how long of a contract?
And he's still struggling with lefties.
Yeah, and still struggling with lefties. He pounds the shit out of right-handed pitching. he has been a little bit better this year.
Yeah, and that's all you can ask, Sean. Just improve a little bit every single year, Michael. That's all you got to do. I'm not expecting him to hit lefties like he's Barry Bonds, but just improve off of the left-handers a little bit every single year, and he's doing that. I like Michael Bush too, Sean. I think sometimes when Cubs fans listen to me say, "Hey, this is the guy I'd part ways, or I wouldn't keep this guy. I'm paying this guy," that just they automatically assume I don't like the other players on the team. If I had it my way, Sean, Michael Bush would be here for the next 10 years. Kyle Tucker would be there for the next 10 years. Matt Shaw would be here for the next 10 years. PCA would be here for the next 10 years. Minaga, Steele, but that's just not the case. It's not going to happen. And Sean, you said earlier, you can't charge me $40 for a beer bat and then not pay your players. Yes, they can. They could do whatever the hell they want. They could do whatever they want. And as long as Cubs fans keep putting money into their pockets, there's just no motivation to pay any of these players. Why would you? If you know for a fact, if Kyle Tucker walks at the end of this free agency class, Sean, if he goes somewhere else, say he goes to the Mets, and next year we go into the season without Kyle Tucker in right field, and Cubs fans show up just as much as they did this season. They're still there every single day. They're in right field talking to the new right fielder. Why? What's the motivation to take money out of your personal pocket, out of your bank account, and start paying these players? What's the motivation? It'd be one thing if I thought Tom Ricketts was a baseball fan, like he actually was a huge fan of the Cubs and not just the owner, and he wanted to win multiple World Series. But Tom Ricketts has proven us that he's not that guy. He's not that guy. This is a business. He bought the Cubs because it was a business opportunity, and he was right because he purchased them for what, $800 million, and they're now worth $5 billion. I mean, he was the right move for him to buy the Cubs, but he's obviously not a giant Cubs fan. He's not a guy who's like, I want to dominate baseball for the next 20 years, and I want my name to be on an organization in which I won 8 World Series in 25 years. He's not that guy. He wants to make money. That's what he wants. He wants money.
That was the one thing that I thought when Ricketts got here, because I kind of thought when he first got here, he was not only going to be the owner, but be a fan, because he kind of came off that way at the beginning, and it kind of now seems like it was a facade, and he's a straight businessman. When this guy says, "Hey, I don't have money, but I'm going to go buy a freaking soccer team for fucking $10 billion," it's like, come on, dude, what are you doing here? Take care of the Cubs, man. Like, Kyle, you've said this many times. I've said it many times. We are the Chicago freaking Cubs, man. We're one of the best. We should be one of the best, one of the elite organizations every single year in baseball. They have the resources to do it. And the thing that frustrates me is we're having this conversation like we got to throw these guys in a hat and shake it around and say, oh, well, we're going to sign this guy and we're going to let this guy go because we're cheap. And it's so goddamn frustrating. And I understand fans like Scott Angel. I get it, man. It's just
Sean, if you're not willing to pay all your stars and you're only going to pay select few of them, the margin for error starts to shrink drastically. Because if you make the wrong decision, if you're like, you know what, let's let Matt Shaw walk, we'll pay Kyle Tucker at PCA, and then Matt Shaw ends up being the best third baseman in baseball when you could have had all three of them, your odds of winning a World Series go down drastically because you're starting to let superstars walk off this team and go to other teams. The Cubs have to be very. I've talked about this in the past. If they're going to make a trade for a starting pitcher this season, come trade deadline, and they're willing to part ways with guys like Owen Casey or Kevin Alcantara or Christian, you got to be very, very careful and make sure you're keeping the right guy. Make sure you're keeping a guy who's going to have a major impact for the Chicago Cubs in the future, is going to help this team win a World Series. Do you think the Cubs are capable of making those decisions? I mean, they haven't proven anything otherwise. Sean, the other day, the Athletic had a ranking of all the GMs in baseball. I think the Cubs were at number 24. Number 24, the Cubs were at. And you know what? When they asked Jed Hoyer, how do you feel about those rankings? You know what his response was, Sean? I mean, if you look at us for the last 6-7 seasons, that's where we should be, right? They're not judging us on this season. The season's not complete. They haven't seen what we're going to do this season. They don't know what the outcome is going to be. But if you judge us on the last 7 seasons, yeah, we should be somewhere between 15 and 25. We're not in the top 5, that's for sure. And if Tom Ricketts was a guy who was a baseball fan and willing to spend money on this team and wanted to see multiple championships in Chicago, Theo Epstein would still be here. He's talked about it. The only reason he left is because he knew they weren't going to be willing to fork over enough money to compete with teams like the Dodgers and Yankees. That's why he left. That's why he went to the Red Sox, who are now spending copious amounts of money since Theo Epstein's been there. They're the one who landed Alex Bregman, not the Cubs. They outbid us. They outbid us because they were like, it's money, we'll make more. That's not the Cubs mentality. They're not like, oh, it's just money, we'll make more. They're like, how do we maximize our potential and take in every single penny and pinch every single penny that we make? That's what the Ricketts are doing. They don't want to be the most winningest team in baseball. They want to be the richest baseball owners in the MLB. That's what they want. And they're well on their way.
I was going to say, it certainly seems that way. I mean, they own Wrigleyville now, and they're not really putting stuff. It doesn't seem like they're putting stuff back into the team, but we're going to find out because Shaw and Bush are at the end of this year don't have to be Cubs anymore. They're on 1-year deals. They're arbitration eligible, but they're not under contract. I just looked them both up. They both have 1-year contracts, and they're both making $600,000. 2026, he's pre-arbitration eligible, and 2027 as well for Matt Shaw. And it says Shaw signed a 1-year, $760 million contract with the Cubs, including $760,000 guaranteed, an average salary of $760,000. He will earn a base salary, and that will carry Shaw's adjusted salary after taxes is $621,000. So, I mean, his contract terms are 1 year. So, like, the Cubs are going to have some decisions to make, and I guess you're going to watch the progress of these two players, as we move along here, and have to you can't let Shaw go.
Baseball contracts are they're very tough to decipher. I mean, when they reach that arbitration, Sean, the Cubs can find a way to keep them here for sure.
Correct.
I mean, they have the rights to these players for a long time, especially the rookies, guys like Matt Shaw.
Yeah, Shaw.
For a long time. It's the same situation we talked about when we were talking about Chris Bryant. That's why the Cubs wouldn't bring him up till after that September date because they'd lose the last year of arbitration. So the Cubs have the option to keep. I believe they have the option to keep both Ian Happ and Nico Horner next year, Matt Shaw next year, Michael Busch next year. Obviously, PCA is going to be here for a while. The only guy that you really have to talk about right now, the guy that the Cubs are in serious danger of losing at the end of the season, is Kyle Tucker. And I just don't see a scenario in which the Cubs give him $600 million. I don't see it. How any Cubs fan in the world can look me in the eye and be like, "Oh, you're nuts. That's 100% going to happen." Where do you come to that conclusion? The most the Cubs have ever paid anybody was like $187 million. You think they're going to make this leap all of a sudden to $600 million for Kyle Tucker? I don't see it. If the Cubs were that hell-bent on keeping their superstars here, I'm guessing that Chris Bryant would be standing at third base because the Cubs didn't know his career was going to fall off the face of a cliff. They didn't know that. As far as they were concerned, he was still going to be that MVP caliber player that was standing third base when the Cubs won the World Series in 2016. They weren't willing to pay him. Now, listen, I'm not saying I'm against what the Cubs did when they traded away the core of that World Series team, because I think it was time. I think it was just time to kind of burn it all down and restart, right? Rebuild it. But
Yeah,
this is not a team that has a reputation for forking out hundreds of millions of dollars to their star. They just don't. And unless something changes drastically and Tom Ricketts wakes up one day and is like, you know what? I don't even care about the money anymore. I just want to win championships. I want my legacy to be the GM who won the most championships of any GM or any owner in the history of baseball. That's just not him. That's not who he is. And I don't think that's who he's going to be. I think at the end of the day, when Tom Ricketts sits down in his office, he doesn't go through the roster and go, I wonder what we would have to do. What holes can we plug to win a World Series? Who can I add in free agency to win a World Series? He goes home at the end of the day and opens up his books and sees how much money he made that day. That's who Tom Ricketts is. There's no doubt about it. It's not even a question anymore. He is not a baseball fan. He's a business owner. That's who he is. See, when people talk about teams like the Dodgers and Yankees, Sean, their owners are baseball fans. They want to win. They want to win the World Series. Yeah, that's why they spend money.
And I'll clarify this really quick. Matt Shaw, as a Cub, is not set to hit free agency till 2030-31 offseason. So he is here for a long time. They said if
most of the rookies
he spends at least 20 days in the minor league system this season, which he just spent 23 days in the minor league system.
I wonder why it was 23 days.
and Michael Busch is also arbitration eligible, but locked in as a Chicago Cub and not eligible for free agency until after the 2029 season. So these two, the two hot corners for the Cubs are here for some time. So we'll have to see how those contracts develop, how they develop, because these might be guys that, you could sign for $30 million. If Michael Busch stays a 260 hitter, you're not paying a 260 hitter $250 million. You know what I mean? So,
well, Sean, and that's what we keep talking about. Is the timeline accurate? Like, Sean, we know that PCA is going to be here for at least 5 or to 2030. We know Michael Busch is going to be here until 2028, 2029. Matt Shaw, the same thing. All these young guys that we keep talking about, the Cubs have control of these guys for 4 or 5 years. The only guy that's a problem right now for them is Kyle Tucker. But here's the question, Sean. How do these prospects and their development play out in terms of the championship window and timing? Like, when is Cade Horton going to be a dominant pitcher in Major League Baseball? Is it going to be at the same time that Matt Shaw is a dominant third baseman and Michael Busch is a dominant first baseman and PCA continues to do what he's doing in center field and Kevin Alcantara comes up here and is absolute? But when you bring Kevin Alcantara up here, how long does it take for him to develop? How long does it take for Owen Casey to develop? How long does it take for Jefferson Rojas to develop? Moises Ballesteros? I mean, at some point, and is Amaya your end all be all at catcher? Like, what? At some point, the Cubs have to figure this out, sit down and figure this out to the point where, like, hey guys, you know what? We love Kevin Alcantara, we love Owen Casey, but their development is just too far out for when we think we're going to be at our maximum potential, our peak to win a World Series with Justin Steele here and Shota Imanaga here and Cade Horton pitching well, looking like a major league pitcher. That's just too far out for us. So let's trade these guys for a starting pitcher now. And basically what you're going to get, Sean, is you're going to get a 1, 2, maybe max 3-year window in which the Cubs are going to have to go all in for World Series. And then after that, they're going to have to do the same thing they did after the 2016 season and burn it all down, because they will have traded away almost their entire farm system to accumulate those arms, those pitching arms, to win a World Series in that little small championship window in which Michael Busch, PCA, Matt Shaw are all here together and playing well enough to win a World Series. Then they're going to trade away that farm system for those pitchers, that one piece you're missing that you think you're missing to go win a World Series. Oh, yeah. And by the way, at the same time that you're doing this let's win a World Series through our farm system, there are 3 other teams of baseball who are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to make sure that you cannot accomplish that goal. So it's like I said this on the show a couple weeks ago. In the administrative side for the Chicago Cubs, you're talking about the player contracts, win championship windows, where we're spending our money, who we're trading, who we're not trading. There are some very, very, very tough decisions to make for the Cubs coming up in the next 3 or 4 years. And it starts with Kyle Tucker. It starts right now with Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, and you honestly, I'm still of the mindset that the Cubs will get this done with Kyle Tucker because you have these contracts that are going to be so far spread out that he'll be halfway through his deal by the time you got to start re-upping key pieces. I think for me, the benchmark, outside of the Sotos and the Otanis, who are premier players in baseball, top of the list. I think the guy who really screwed the pooch for the Cubs was Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Because if you look at him getting $500 million, yes, I think Kyle Tucker is a much better baseball player than he is. So you're looking, if he got that deal this year, Kyle Tucker's definitely getting a deal bigger than that. Because I'm sorry, I love Vlad Guerrero Jr. He is one of my favorite players, not non-Chicago Cub. But Kyle Tucker's way better, way better than Vlad Guerrero.
And first and foremost, Tom Ricketts is going to have to accept the fact that he's going to have to defer money at some point as an owner in the Major League Baseball. If he wants the Cubs to be good and wants to win championships, you have to defer money. Everybody's doing it.
You have to.
Everybody's doing it, Sean. Everyone. But here's another.
Kyle, what about that report, though, that Kyle Tucker would take less up front if it wasn't deferred?
So you're talking what, 450?
$450 million if it wasn't deferred.
I mean,
I don't know if that's going to hold water at the end of the season, especially if someone's dangling a $600 million carrot in front of his face. But, maybe he does like Chicago. Maybe Chicago does play a factor. Hey, I love the city. I love being here. It's a great place to raise my family. I'll stay here for $450 million. That could be a pipe dream too. I mean,
yeah, sure, that's a possibility. Maybe he falls in love with the city of Chicago. Maybe he falls in love with right field at Wrigley Field, and he ends up saying, "Hey, I'll take a pay cut to stay in Chicago." There's a strong possibility that's a chance too. But like I said, baseball has done themselves a disservice. They're not doing themselves any favors. If you have teams like the Kansas City Royals or the Tampa Bay Rays, or the Chicago White Sox, who at max can only afford to pay their superstar $150 million, but you have teams like the Yankees, Braves, Dodgers who are willing to gobble up these free agent superstars and pay them whatever they want, then baseball is never going to have a lot of parity. These teams on the bottom are never going to make it to the top, and the teams on the top are never going to fall to the bottom. It's never going to happen. And this is why baseball has been taking so much grief over the last 4 or 5 years, exclude outside of the fact that it's also very slow and these young kids want action 24/7. So these young crowds, just the young generation is just not watching baseball anymore. If baseball at some point doesn't stand up and go, all right, guys, everybody stop what you're doing. This is getting ridiculous. The Dodgers are paying multiple players $700 million. The Kansas City Royals top paid player is making 120. Like this is not going to work out in the long run. This is going to kill us. It's going to kill our product. You can't have one team who has 7 superstars on it because they're willing to pay however much money, whatever the price tag is, whatever the asking price is, they'll pay it. Another team who's scratching, looking underneath the couch cushions for pennies so they can pay Bobby Witt Jr. in the outfield.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, people are going to start getting sick of this. Sean, people like parity. People don't like to see the same team. It's great. It's great to see dominance every once in a while.
Parity.
Yeah, it's great to see these dynasties every once in a while. I think it's good for sports when you're like, all right, well, at least we got to watch greatness. We got to watch Tiger Woods. We got to watch Michael Jordan. We got to watch Tom Brady. Every once in a while, that's good for sports. But Sean, if you're talking about over a stretch of 20, 30, 40 years, the same team winning multiple championships over and over and over, which we've already seen in baseball, the Yankees have like 49 World Series. The Cardinals are in second with like 20. If that continues to happen the way it's happening, if they don't implement a salary cap and the Dodgers can keep buying World Series over and over and over and over again, it's not going to be a good outcome for baseball. I can tell you that right now, because the fans who are the fringe fans, the teams like the Rays and the Royals and the Reds and the Pirates, the fringe fans, the ones who aren't like, oh, you cut me, I bleed red and white, I'm a Reds fan. Those fringe fans who are like, I watch baseball, but I don't go out of my way. If it's on TV, I'll watch the playoffs if the Reds make it. Yeah. They're not going to be there anymore, man. They're not going to wait. They're not going to wait 50 years to hope that everything falls perfectly in place in the farm system, and they just so happen to fall upon a Paul Skeens or a Kyle Tucker or a Juan Soto, and he's good enough to carry them to World Series. Sooner or later, those hopes are going to be dashed, and these fans just aren't going to hang in there anymore. And Sean, sooner or later, like Alex Pat talked about on this very podcast, how many Dodgers jerseys are we seeing? How many Dodgers hats? There's fans of other teams, fans of the White Sox, fans of the Royals, fans of the Tampa Bay Rays who are already jumping ship and going to root for the team that's winning championships. Yeah. Sooner or later, the United States of America is going to be the United States of Dodgers fans. That's what it's going to be, because these kids want championships. These kids want to watch championships. They don't want to watch their team like, oh, well, we scratched and clawed. We fought our hardest. We made the playoffs 3 years in a row now. Sooner or later, that gets old. People don't want to watch that anymore.
I will say this because you just gave me a perfect segue to the breaking news because I wanted to get into this just a tad. But yes, the Chicago Cubs were picked for the 2027 All-Star game. And my question is, what does this mean for the team? What does this mean for the city, the fans, the franchise? Because we haven't hosted an All-Star game since 1990.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, because you were just talking about this, Kyle. We get it in 2027, but 2027 is also the year that they're saying there's going to be a strike in Major League Baseball.
Which I believe is going to happen, Sean. No doubt
I think it needs to happen because I think you need to walk a line here, and you got to figure out a way to cap this Dodgers crap, cap this Yankees crap. Because I'll tell you, I'll be God's honest truth. I'll watch the playoffs, but if it's a World Series and it's Dodgers and Yankees, I highly doubt I'm going to watch one inning of that World Series because I just don't care. It'll be New York.
That's what I'm saying. That's what most fans, I think that's the point most fans are at, Sean. They're like, well, if I know for a fact, like, Sean, if I told you the end of a book, if I told you the last 4 pages of a book, would you go read the book?
Right.
No. Right. Why would you? If I told you the ending of a movie, oh, hey, the main character dies in the last scene, are you going to go watch that movie? No, absolutely not. If baseball fans wake up in the morning before the season starts and go, I know for a fact it's going to be Dodgers Yankees in the World Series. I know it for a fact. It's not even a question. Why would you watch this season? Why would you watch the playoffs? Why would you watch the World Series? There's no point to it. It's like last year, Sean. The ratings were not impressive. They left a lot to be desired to that Dodgers Yankees World Series, and that's not. You're talking about 2 of the biggest markets in the world. How is that not the most viewed thing on television every single day they're playing? Because people are sick of the Yankees and Dodgers. That's why.
I was going to say, you want to know the truth too. When it comes to New York, there's a lot of Yankees fans, but that city's split, man. It's more split, I'd say, than Chicago with the Cubs and the Sox. I think there's as many Mets fans as there are Yankees fans in New York.
And the Mets are a big market team as well. And well, I will say this about the All-Star game, Sean. I think the all the attention Chicago can get, the more the attention, the better. Because sooner or later, if baseball and sports writers and fans alike all start to treat the Chicago Cubs like they're upper echelon, top tier team, Tom Ricketts might force his hand into acting like he's a top tier owner on a top tier team in baseball. Like, the more attention Chicago can get, like, I think the emergence of PCA is absolutely amazing for the Chicago Cubs in multiple ways, guys. I'm not just talking about on the field and winning baseball games. I'm talking about if PCA is like the most marketable player in baseball, everybody loves him. You're seeing PCA jerseys in California, New York, and Florida, Texas. Sooner or later, Tom Ricketts is going to go, man, if I let this guy walk, I'm going to look like an absolute idiot. Like, I'm going to look like the dumbest human being on the planet if I take this guy who's making millions of dollars alone just in jersey sales, card sales, whatever, anything you can get from marketing a player like Pete Armstrong, and you let him walk off your organization, you lose the money from PCA and all the jersey sales and all that, then you are an idiot. People are going to go, Tom Ricketts is an idiot.
Let me ask you this, though. Wouldn't that be the same argument you have for letting Kyle Tucker walk away?
Sean, if I'm Tom Ricketts, I'm paying them. I'm paying everybody.
Man. Yeah, that's egg on your face.
You know why I'm paying everybody, guys? I'm going to say this for the last time. Brennan said this on the chat a couple weeks ago. Sean, you've said this a million times. Bruce, we've all said this. Winning championships makes you money. It makes money. We just talked about how many Dodgers hats and jerseys have you seen lately, Sean? A lot. Winning championships makes you money. And at some point, I think if the Cubs could even accidentally fall or trip onto a World Series, one could just fall in their lap, Tom Ricketts could look at the income and go, oh my God, look how much money we're making off this, which I'm surprised he didn't do after the 2016 season.
2016,
dude, the Cubs were the most lovable team in the history of sports. Everybody in the world was rooting for the Chicago Cubs.
7 million people
showed
up for the March.
Everybody was tied to their TV like, oh my God, are the Cubs going to win their first World Series in 108 years? Like, it was one of the biggest stories in sports history. Chicago got all the attention for that year. Like, There's just no, you can't, as a owner of a sports organization, can't convince me that winning doesn't make you more money, because it does.
Right.
The fact of the matter is, it just does. And if the Ricketts want to be in that conversation with the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Braves and the Phillies, then at some point you're going to have to start spending money. And now is a great time to start with Kyle Tucker. And even though PC is under contract to 2030, Sean, I'm giving him an extension right now, and I'm making him the face of the Chicago Cubs for the next 15 years. Ricketts, at the end of his run, PCA, if he continues to do what he's doing, those numbers you just showed on Pete Armstrong, John, if that continues for the entirety of his career, even anything like that, if he continues to play like that for the rest of his career, there should be a statue of Pete Armstrong sitting outside Wrigley Field for the rest of our lives. There should be a statue of him. This guy is going to be, there's a good chance, if not Ohtani or Judge, you're looking at the face of baseball, Major League Baseball. I'm talking about every commercial you see is going to lead off the commercial with PCA hitting a home run.
Too.
Yeah, he's just marketable. He's just a marketable. He loves baseball. Listen, Sean, we've seen so many guys who are really good at the sport, but they kind of show up to work. They do their job. Like Sean, remember when baseball was trying to make Mike Trout the face of baseball? And he was like, no thanks. No thanks. I want to come here. I want to come to the ballpark. I want to do my job. I want to go home and be with my family. PCA loves it.
Yeah,
he loves it. He wants all of it. He's the type of guy where he hits a home run and he's like, you see the name on the back of this jersey? That's me. I'm the man. I'm the guy. I am the face of baseball. $75 million? Yeah, go F yourself. I'll wait around for six. This is who he is. He loves all of it. I have
a question for you. And we were talking about this on Tuesday, and Steve and I were talking about this. Steve absolutely hates the way he plays baseball. He says he acts like he's showing people up and stuff. And I'm like, dude, that's what I said to him. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I want him to know. Like, here, pitch to me. Like, look, I can tell you this right now. That grand slam, when Hunter Green threw that ball, he knew where he was putting that ball. Outside part of the plate, trying to stay away from PCA to not give up a grand slam at 100 miles per hour, and he knocks that ball over the fence. Like, come on, man. Like, yeah, you should be celebrating that shit, because that was the first thing I noticed last night watching that replay. I was like, holy crap, man. That ball was off the plate at 100 miles. Not too many people have the bat speed in the world to catch up to that pitch, especially being outside of the plate. That wasn't middle. That was that grand slam, his first grand slam, I'm sorry, was an incredible home run for many reasons yesterday. Plain and simple.
Well, yeah, and the fact that it was like reviewed or whatever, I'm like, what is going on? Like,
why did they review that? I didn't understand that.
Sean, I was watching. Unfortunately, when I'm at work, I can't hear the audio, so I'm like, why is this? This is ridiculous. Why are you wasting your time? Like, that's clearly a grand slam. But yeah, I mean, Sean, what's the common denominator between every dominant athlete in the history of sports? Not baseball, sports. They're cocky. They're all cocky. That's part of being a very, very good athlete. Most athletes, even when you were in high school and college, all the really good athletes were cocky guys, man. They're all cocky. I think that you almost have to be. I think there's a small part of these athletes that has to be. I mean, in being cocky comes confidence, right? Like, I am the man. I'm the best in the world. I can do anything. I can be the best player ever to play baseball. It's like remember that in that interview when Derrick Rose before the season, or like early on in the season, and the reporters were like, do you really think that a guy like you, your height and playing point guard in the NBA could be an MVP? And he's like, why not? Why can't I be the MVP? I'm the best player in the world. I can do anything I want. I can be the MVP 10 times in a row if I want. That's the attitude you need. How about Caleb Williams? I'm going to win as many Super Bowls as Tom Brady. I'm going to be Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to be that's what you want. You want that. Now, listen, everywhere else in the world, no thanks. But on a basketball court, on a football field, on a baseball diamond, yes, please. Give me all. I want PCA to be the cockiest son of a bitch in Major League Baseball. That's what I want.
I'm with you 100%.
And I'm going to buy his jersey. How about that? PCA, you keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy your white jersey. I'm going to buy your blue jersey. I'm going to buy your throwback jersey. I'm going to buy them all. I'm going to hang them on my wall right here.
Yeah, and as we switch gears here, we take a sneak peek at the NL Central standings. the Cubs are the St. Louis Cardinals ran into the Detroit Tigers and finally played a good team and couldn't hold their head above water. So we gained a couple there, a couple of games there. Now let's talk about the challenge that's in front of us as the Cubs are invading the Queen City and facing the Reds in what is kind of a pivotal NL Central clash. You know, with the Reds being in third, nipping at our heels. The next two games, you don't want to shift the standings down to 4.5. You want to try and extend it. And that was the good thing about yesterday in coming back and getting that win was, for me, you leave this series no matter what happens the next couple of days with a 4.5 game lead. And we know that right now. The next 2 days, we have Abbott and Ray on the bump today. A couple of stellar earned run averages through baseball. Could be a low scoring game. And tomorrow we get a crack at Ben Brown and Mr. Nick Lodolo to close out the series. And the Cubs do play. You know what? We'll do looking ahead. We'll get our predictions for the week right when we get out of here. But if we want to look ahead here, the Cubs do play 6 of their next 10 versus the Cincinnati Reds. And as you can see here, they're going to be at home. All 3 games are 120 starts, hence the clock in the upper right corner of the graphic. They are all 120 starts, and we will see game 2 and game 3. We'll see a rematch next weekend of Ray versus Abbott and Brown versus Lodolo. And then we get Taillon and Martinez to close that out. And of course, ahead of that series, we're going to play the 9-42 Colorado Rockies. And man, those are some earned run averages.
God, look at those earned run averages. Look, Gordon looks like a superstar. It's 4.38.
Yeah, this honestly, folks, should be a sweep for the Chicago Cubs. They should walk all over this team. And as you can see, you got 120 and then a couple of twin night bills to close out Tuesday and Wednesday, 7:05 starts on the north side of Chicago. We'll come back and get our predictions because we got Ben Brown in two pivotal spots this week, closing out on a Sunday and leading game 2 of the Reds next week in Chicago. So I wanted to get into this and just touch on this really quick because everyone, I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, we don't know this Ben Brown guy, blah, blah, blah. This is what we talked about a little bit. You got to let people give them time to develop. So Justin Steele's first 20 starts here, 90 innings, 486, 461 FIP, 12 home runs, a batting average against of 256, a 150 whip, and a 304 BABIP. So the first 17 starts for Ben Brown are eerily similar. 82 innings pitched, 435 earned run average, 351 FIP, 10 home runs, 243 batting average against, a 311 whip, a 125 whip and a 311 BABIP. So all I'm saying is Justin Steele has turned into that front end starter that he was projected. And I don't even know if he was ever projected to be, but I will tell you this, give Ben Brown some time because there's two similarities between Steele and Brown. And I know Kyle hates this, and that's why I wanted to bring this up and get his opinion. He's a 2-pitch pitcher. He has 5 pitches in his selection, but Ben Brown uses the other 3 pitches at less than 4%. So he's fastball, changeup, fastball, slider, and then everything else is at less than 4%.
That's
clip.
what he's fastball slider. That's what he is, Sean.
But then you look at that and say, that's what Justin Steele is. And he's very effective because over his time, he's learned how to pitch in Major League Baseball.
Yes.
And that's why these first 20 starts are eerily similar. And I'm just saying, I don't know if he's going to turn into Justin Steele. But when you look at the progressions, they're very close. So, Kyle, where's your thoughts and feel on Ben Brown? Is it have you given up? Because I know some Cub fans on Twitter and X are like, this guy needs to go into the bullpen and be the long relief guy. Because if you do go his third time through the lineup, teams are batting like 569 against him, dude. It's a really high number. And the first time through is a little bit low. It's like 300, then it's like 400, and then the third time through the lineup, he's just getting whacked all around. So is this stay patient and wait, or are you ready to Shota comes back, leave Kate Horton up here, put Ben Brown into the bullpen?
Yeah, that's quite the question there, Sean. I mean, we know that Ben Brown can throw, but can he pitch? See, the reason that Justin Steele is so good and so dominant in the front end of the rotation pitcher, and you know what, Justin Steele realistically should probably be number 2 on a really good team. But
yeah, 100%.
The reason that he is so successful in Major League Baseball is because he's smart and he's damn good with his location. When Justin Steele is on, his location is almost flawless. So here's the question. The question is not, are Ben Brown's 2 pitches good enough to make it in Major League Baseball? Of course, Ben Brown, he's one of the fastest throwing pitchers on the Chicago Cubs. He throws fire. But here's the question. Sean, can Ben Brown be consistent enough with location? And is he smart enough to figure out how to play baseball? Actually pitch. Like, this guy's expected fastball, I'm throwing him a slider. This guy's expecting a slider, I'm throwing him a fastball. That remains to be seen. I don't know. Right now, so far, when it comes to Ben Brown, I'm not unhappy with what I've seen, but he's inconsistent. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, there's days where I watch Ben Brown and I'm like, this guy, this is the best pitcher in baseball outside of Paul Skeens. And then there's other days where I watch Ben Brown and I'm like, who the hell is this guy and why is he on the mound? I mean, that game ago, was the Marlins, I think it was, the start of that game when those 3 home runs in the same inning. That's just the type of stuff that you're going to get from Ben Brown with the inconsistencies. At some point, if he doesn't start to become a major league pitcher instead of a major league thrower, then I think he's probably better suited in that long inning relief so he doesn't have to see the lineup 3 times or the batting order 3 times. Because, Sean, like you said, the third time through, these guys are like, all right, we know what he's got. He's got that fastball and he's got that slider. Now we just have to guess. Yeah, we just have to guess which one is he going to throw. If he could keep them off guard, if he could be like a Kyle Hendricks type of professor where he starts to learn the game of baseball and he knows what to throw. They're expecting one thing, he throws them something else, and he's consistent with that location. I don't see any reason why he can't be Justin Steele at all. But I'll tell you this. I know you just showed the first 20 starts, so obviously, Sean, we have to be patient with him, just as patient as we were with Justin Steele. But when you watch Justin Steele now, since he's learned how to be a major league pitcher, his location is much more consistent than Ben Brown. Now, Ben Brown might learn that. You never know. And one day he could learn that. But that's the problem with being a 2-pitch pitcher. Your margin for error is tiny. It's tiny. It's tiny. Every single pitch Justin Steele throws, you can see. I mean, you see how hard Justin Steele works. You see how sweaty he is. You see how worn out he is. It's because he has to put everything into every single pitch, and every single pitch is that close to being a home run because he knows he only has 2 pitches to offer the batter. So it's basically a guessing game at that point, and these guys can get ahead of it. Like you said, if they know what's coming, they're going to hit it. Ben Brown has to get to the point where he is absolutely remarkably precise with his location. It's got to hit the outside edge or the bottom of the strike zone or the top of the strike zone every single pitch. If he doesn't ever get that consistent, like Justin Steele was at one point in his career, I know Justin Steele had a bad start to the season this year, but the last couple of years, Justin Steele's been amazing, and his location has been the reason that he is one of the best pitchers in baseball. If Ben Brown can't get that precision with his location, he's not going to be Justin Steele because of the 2. Now, Sean, Ben Brown's also really young, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could add another pitch to that arsenal at some point. I mean, this guy still has a lot of learning to do. He might have his best seasons at 29, 30, 31 years old. That kind of seems to be how baseball goes.
And I was going to say, that's kind of how Justin Steele's career has gone.
That's like Sean. We're talking about Kyle Tucker. Like we're talking about paying this guy $600 million at 28 years old because we know that his prime is for the next 3 years, right? 28, 29, 30, 31. I mean, that's baseball. That's the sport of baseball. It takes these guys a long time to learn how to play in the major league level. If Ben Brown can add another pitch, or it can be his precision for that location can be just as good as Justin Steele, I think he could be a front of the rotation type guy. But that margin of error, Sean, with 2-pitch pitchers is very, very small. And in my experience, since I've been watching Major League Baseball since I was knee-high to a duck, those 2-pitch pitchers just usually have careers of inconsistency because the days that location is on, the days where they can nail that location, they're amazing. The days where it's just slightly off, just a little bit off, and they're hanging it over the plate a little bit instead of hitting that outside corner, those are the days where they get their butts whooped. And if Ben Brown can't be consistent with that location, he's going to be this guy for the rest of his career. 2 earned runs over 5, 7 earned runs over 4. That's who he's going to be for the rest of his career.
And so we're clear, he uses his four-seamer at a 58% clip. His curve, he has a knuckle curve. He uses that at 39%, and he uses his changeup 3% of the time.
Yeah, if he
So
could perfect that changeup and he could start to use that more like 15, 20% of the time, or even like 12, 15% of the time, then he becomes a much better pitcher. Because if that batter's sitting in the batter's box going, man, which one of these three pitches is he going to throw me? I have to take a guess. Odds are you have a 33% chance of being right when you make that guess. But right now with Ben Brown, when the batter's in that batter box and he's taking a guess of what pitch he's about to see, it's a 50-50 shot.
50. Yep, it is 100%. And we're going to get back into our predictions. We're going to take a quick trip down on the farm because there was some interesting developments down on the farm this week. The Cubs, Mo Baller, obviously went back down, and he has reached base in all 3 games since being sent back down earlier this week. He had a 2-run single as part of a 3-run rally to beat Columbus 2 days ago. Kente Mahida made a return to the mound.
Not a good one.
Not a good one at all.
Not a good one.
He was staked a 3-run lead and immediately gave up 5 runs on 5.
Dude, when you say immediately, I think it was like 9 minutes. He gave up 5 runs.
It was pretty gosh darn fast. But the one thing, and this is one of Kyle's favorite guys, so I have to bring this up. It's one of his favorite minor leaguers, and and I'm starting to get here with you, Kyle, and wondering when this guy is going to get up. Luke Little has 5 strikeouts. He had 5 strikeouts last night over 2 scoreless innings for the Iowa Cubs. His earned run average right now is down to a sparkling 1.0, and he has not given up an earned run since April 16th. So either he's finding it. Right now at AAA, he has a 0.56 whip. He has teams are hitting 0.88 against him. He has 21 strikeouts, 5 walks. He's given up 1 home run and 2 earned runs over the 18 innings that he has been out in 12 games that he's appeared in for the Iowa Cubs. Luke Little, my friend, might be somebody down on the farm that I'm sorry, I forgot to take that off there. Someone that could be coming to sport some relief. A big guy, humongous human being, big time gas. What I know you want to talk about him. Take it away, Kyle. What's your thoughts on our boy? He's not so little, Luke Little.
Yeah, Sean, you talk about irony. I mean, the fact that his name, he is huge. He is a massive human being. But yeah, I mean, Sean, it's not so much that I love Luke Little. I'm at the point now where in 2025, 2026, it's this season, next season, just where these guys are at now, Sean, how fast these guys coming out of college are throwing. I mean, I saw a statistic the other day that's like some 30% of pitchers in college baseball right now can hit triple digits. I mean, at some point you have to change with the game. You have to adjust as the times adjust. The Cubs need more flamethrowers. They need as many Daniel Palencias and Luke Littles as they could possibly get, because right now, with how good these hitters are, these are the only guys that are capable of coming in and getting 3 strikeouts in a row. These guys who are throwing 100 miles an hour. All these guys who are fastballs are hovering around 94, 95, who used to dominate baseball 10 years ago, and people are like, oh my God, that guy's throwing 95 miles an hour. You're not going to hit that guy. That nowadays you need the 101, 102, 103. That's who that's you want the Aroldis Chapmans, you want the Luke Littles, you want the Daniel Palencias. The problem with Luke Little has never been his stuff; it's his location. If Luke, you know what stinks for Luke Little is, Sean, like you just said, the numbers you just went over are amazing, right? But I think he just gets nervous when he comes up here, and I think the Cubs just kind of got to be patient with him and kind of let him get used to the setting, because why can he do that so consistently at the minor league level where not only is he throwing fire, but it's hitting the outside corner, it's hitting the bottom of the strike zone, and then he comes up here and he looks like he's never pitched a day in his life. It's just, I think he's just nervous. I think he's standing in front of 35,000 people. His heart's pounding. He's probably stuck in his own head. He might be overthrowing a little bit. Instead of pitching a 99 mile per hour fastball that's hitting the outside corner, he's pitching 101 and it's way outside. Like, Luke, somebody needs to go up to Luke Little and go, hey, Luke, relax, calm down. You know you're capable of throwing absolute fire that people can't touch. You just have to just believe in your, first of all, be confident, believe in yourself. Second of all, just relax, take a deep breath, take one pitch, to do this one pitch at a time, find your location. And I think when Luke Little finally does get to that point, if he is capable of getting to that point, Sean, he's going to be dominant bullpen pitcher in baseball for a long time. He's just got to get to a point. And another thing about Luke Little, Sean, that gives him an advantage over hitters is he's so long and so big that by the time the ball gets out of his hand, it's got like 12 feet to get to home plate. I mean, he's huge. He's absolutely a massive human being. So yeah, the best case scenario for the Cubs is for that guy to be just as good as he was in the minors and the majors, and he'd be a key piece to this bullpen in high leverage situations. I think, Sean, how would you, if Luke Little pitched like he did down there, and he came up here and it was Luke Little, Daniel Palencia, Porter Hodge, this Cubs team is looking a lot better.
I agree.
Then you're talking about possible World Series. If you can add him starting, if you can add a starting pitcher to that rotation, you're talking about. I mean, you've already seen that the Cubs can compete with teams like the likes of the Dodgers and Yankees. We've seen it. They've beat the Padres. They beat the Dodgers. I don't think the Cubs are that far off the World Series, guys. I'm not. At the beginning of the show, I said the Cubs need to think about trading Kyle Tucker. That's only if they're not willing to make the moves to get this, to build this team, to add to the rotation and the bullpen. You have to, at some point, you have to add to the pitching. If the Cubs can find a way to scrape this together, and you know what? For every Kenta Maeda that the Cubs sign, which is just a joke and laughable to me, Drew Pomeranz has been amazing. He's been absolutely amazing. He might he might be the best Cub in the bullpen.
I was going to say, does he still have a 0.0 earned run average?
I don't think he's allowed run. I do not think Drew Pomeranz is allowed run.
Hey, Bruce, check out Drew Pomeranz's earned run average for us really quick, because I'm going to get into my position player of the week, and I'm such a jerk. I forgot to load the graphic for Mr. Jonathan Long, but this guy is absolutely tearing up Iowa. He is a first baseman. For those who don't know, he's appeared in 44 games. He has played the most games of any AAA player for the Chicago Cubs this year. 165 at-bats, 29 runs, 60 hits, 10 doubles, 2 triples, 6 dingers, 34 RBIs. He's striking out a little bit too much for me. 47 strikeouts, only taking 17 walks. He does have 2 stolen bases, but check this out. This is where it gets fun. He's slugging, or his average is 364. His OBP is 424. And his slugging is 558 for a total OPS of 982. There's only one guy better than him right now, and that would be Carlos Perez, who's played in half of the games. This guy is a consistent player. He had the go-ahead home run against the Clippers last night, going 2 for 5, 2 runs, a double, home run, 2 RBIs. This was a guy in spring training. They were saying borderline was almost going to make this team as a utility player. This could be a piece. And if you believe in Michael Busch, this could be a piece at first base you can plug into a trade and get some relief, a relief pitcher or a starter. Kyle, I don't know if you've had any time to look into Jonathan Long. I forgot to send you the names of this week. But what are your thoughts on Jonathan Long?
Yeah, no, Sean, I actually read a piece about him this morning before we came on here, and yeah, it sounds like he's legit. I mean, well, like you said, what's more impressive than the numbers you gave is the fact that it's sustained success. I mean, this is not like a flat. How many times in baseball do you see guys like? I remember when Frank Schwindel hit like 14 home runs in like 45 games, so we were like, "Oh my God, look at this guy!" And then all of a sudden, he became Frank Schwindel and fell off the face of the planet. Like, this is not that type of guy. This is a guy who has sustained. Now, like Sean, like you said. Those strikeouts have to come down. Yeah. That has to come down. You can't have a 45 to 12 strikeout to walk ratio. That's not going to, and it's going to get tougher in Major League Baseball. But
yes, it is.
This guy's young. He's a prospect. If he could continue to work on taking more pitches, accumulating some walks, and cutting down on those strikeouts, yeah, Sean, I think he could be a major part of this organization. That's what I'm talking. That's what we keep talking about over and over again. Every time we get to this farm system, I just think the same thing over and over. Cubs. Be very careful about who you keep here and who you decide to trade away, because it's going to be ultimately is going to decide the future outcome for the Chicago Cubs and whether or not they win a World Series. So I like him a lot, Sean. I would rather have Michael Busch. If Michael Busch could somehow stay here for the long run, I'd rather Michael Busch, because Michael Busch was the minor league player of the year, and since he's come up, he has not disappointed. I mean, there's nothing. When I look at Michael Busch, I don't look at anything and go, you know what, he's good, but he's Michael Bush is a very good baseball player, and he's smart. He's very smart, and I think that's how Michael Bush makes a career off just being intelligent. And at the end of the day, I would like Michael Bush to be standing at first base when the Cubs win a World Series. I think that would probably make me the happiest of anything. But yeah, if they do decide to move on from Michael Bush or part ways with him or trade him, use him as a trade piece in a trade for pitching, I think that the future is bright.
Well, we're gonna obviously take one more look ahead to what's on deck for the Cubs before we put a bow on this thing for this week in baseball. We have a pitching matchup today of Colin Ray versus Andrew Abbott. 238 earned run average versus 180 earned run average. Their whips are very similar. I don't have them in front of me, but they're very, very close. This looks like it could be a key matchup. And of course, the Chicago Cubs have the Queen City Killer on their roster. He did go 1 for 4, a walk. But when he did find himself on base, he did get 2 runs. So Mr. Happ did cross the plate. This guy is the best hitter in Great American Ballpark of any hitter that's ever hit in that ballpark. And for those who don't know, he's also went to the University of Cincinnati. So that might just be a little love affair he has. But the Queen City Killer will be back in action today. I'm very happy to have him off of the DL and back in the lineup and back in left field at that matter. So Kyle, we're going to throw you up in here in just 1 second, Bruce. Actually, I'm going to throw you up here right now. We have today Abbott and Ray, tomorrow Brown and Lodolo, followed by where is this? We have, which I'm giving 3 wins right here. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm going all 3 wins.
Sean, it better be. When I saw that the Yankees lost to the Rockies yesterday, and then they showed a picture of Aaron Judge's face standing on the field while the Rockies were celebrating, I'm like, look at the embarrassment in his face.
Right?
He's like, listen, Aaron Judge was thinking, listen, I don't mind losing, but we can't lose to the Rockies, guys. That's not acceptable. I mean, they got their 9th win off the New York Yankees. Yeah, I am taking the sweep against the Rockies, no doubt. And if they don't sweep them, I'm going to be severely disappointed.
For Sunday, for Saturday and Sunday, I'm giving the Reds one of these games. So I'm going to have the Cubs. And then, hold on, let me look. Friday, we have Colin Ray versus Abbott again. And, what the hell? I'm going to give the Cubs the win there. So up until Saturday, I'm going to steal a page out of Bruce's book, who was last week's winner. He picked the Cubs to have 1 loss. Bruce took it home. Kyle the week before. So I got to get myself on the old Cadillac board here. But I'm going to take the Chicago Cubs to go 5-1. I think they split this weekend with the Reds, sweep the Colorado Rockies, and then they'll win that Friday ball game. And we will be back on the air before they play that 120 tilt next Saturday. So we have 6 games. Kyle, I'm going to go 5-1 for the Cubs over this stretch.
Nice.
Yeah, Sean, I got that news. If you win this week, it'll be a shared win because I am also going to go 5-1 for the Cubs. I think they can win. I think they can win today, but I do think either one of these games the Reds are going to lose. I think for sure one of these games the Reds.
I'm going to go with the Cubs' horrible record on Sunday, and I'm going to take them to lose tomorrow instead of
to Lodolo. Yeah, because that guy gives the Cubs. He gives
I got
the
to
Cubs
that
too.
Yeah.
And that's Sean. Where are you at, Bruce? What you got this week, my friend?
I'll go 6-0.
6-0.
Yeah.
6-0.
Yeah. I just feel like kind of feeling that they could do it.
Well, I mean, that Cubs offense is even more dangerous in Great American Ballpark, and they're playing the Rockies, so it's not on the realm of possibility, Bruce. That would be huge for the Cubs because they would come out of that stretch like 5-7 games up in the NL Central.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? You do think that the Cardinals would hopefully get tripped up here playing the Diamondbacks. They did sneak one out 4-3 yesterday, so the Cubs didn't have enough.
Sean, everybody keeps talking about how the Cardinals are right behind the Cubs. I'm like, guys, the Cubs have played the Padres, the Dodgers, the Rockies, every good team in baseball. The Cardinals haven't played anybody. When the Cardinals get into that stretch of their schedule that the Cubs just went through, this is not going to be a competition in this division anymore. The Cubs are going to run away with this. And you know what, Sean? Last night at the bar, huge Cardinals fan who just kept talking and telling me that the Cardinals were ultimately going to win this division. I'm like, all right, fine. Then put your money where your mouth is, man. How much do you want to bet on it? And this guy shook my hand for $50. The St. Louis Cardinals.
Shut up.
As a matter of fact, Sean, you want to hear it? I can't believe I couldn't explain it to him any, but I'm like, listen, not only am I going to give you the Cardinals, $50, Cardinals versus Cubs. I said, I'm like, Drew, I will give you the field. You could take the field. You could take the Pirates, the Reds, the Cardinals. You could take them all. Brewers. I'm just going to take the Cubs. And he was like, no, I don't want the field. I want the Cardinals. I'm like, dude, I'm giving you the Cardinals plus 3 other teams, and you can have all of them. And he was like, no, I just want the Cardinals. I'm like, done. I couldn't shake his hand fast enough. And then everybody else at the table was like, hey, wait a second. Can I get on that bet too? Will you shake everybody's hand? And he was like, yeah, I'll shake all your guys' hands. I'm like, dude, Sean, unless PCA and Kyle Tucker run into each other and break their legs at the same time, that is the easiest $50 I've ever made in my entire life.
Well, things will not be getting any easier for the St. Louis Cardinals, as they will have a weekend set wrap up with the Arizona Diamondbacks, unfortunately, down at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Then they travel to Baltimore, who seems to be getting their head on straight just a tad, although their pitching does suck. The Texas, followed by a trip to Arlington Park in the Texas Rangers. Then they get their inner city rivals, the Kansas City Royals again. But then the fun really begins, as they will get the Dodgers, followed by the Blue Jays, followed by the Brewers, and then unfortunately they get the White Sox. So hopefully I'll be rooting for the White Sox for 3 days, my friends. And before we get out of here, Lindsay, thank you for popping in, because you just reminded me. I know nobody cares, but I'm gonna put it out there anyways. I gotta say, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, they had a walk-off to get past Oklahoma State in the quarters, and they got their absolute brains beat in the semifinal yesterday to TCU. But the Jayhawks will be in the College Baseball World Series, so they were eliminated from the Big 12 tournament. But the NCAA tournament awaits. So Rock Chalk, hopefully these Jayhawks can make some noise. This is a very, very sound baseball team. So hopefully we can clear a bracket and catch some fire. And I need a little Jayhawk love, because Jesus Christ, man, basketball season didn't go as planned. So, but until next week, my friends, the Cubs, Bruce has them at 6-0. Kyle and I are at 5-1. Bruce, I hope you are correct, sir.
Yes.
And the Cubs don't lose a game. That would be amazing.
Yeah. That's a tall task in baseball, man. You have that pitcher that's on fire. He doesn't have to be a great pitcher, but it's that day he's just absolutely on fire. You're just you always have those days in baseball, or your offense gets really quiet. You know what would be, Sean? You know what would be an interesting sports league, Sean? If they made a baseball league, everything was unisons across the whole league, right? Every baseball field was the same size. Every bat's the same size. Every ball.
Kyle really wants this, guys.
Yeah, but listen, Sean, I'm not done yet. And if you're in a game, say it's the Cubs and Reds, right? And the Cubs win 14-5. You can carry those runs on to the next game. So it would be 6-5, and then you'd have those 8 runs for the next game. But after that game, then they disappear. And your opposing team can do that to you as well.
All right, we're going to get a baseball league with Kyle started here.
I mean, because how many times do we see this Cubs score 15 runs and we're like, oh God, that means they're not going to get a hit tomorrow. Oh Jesus!
Yeah. You know what,
guys, save some of it.
Hey Kyle, you know what that happened against the Marlins? We scored 13 runs and then barely scratched the surface. We scratched out a 2-1 victory, but
yeah, I think the other 2 games combined, they had 3 runs?
Yeah,
and then they had 14 in the middle there. Yeah, but Bruce, the key to being 6-0, obviously you should sweep the Rockies, no problem. But the Cubs just have to keep these games close to get into that Reds bullpen, because that Reds bullpen leads a lot to be desired, man. It's just not very good. So
you want to know what was funny coming into that, Kyle? Well, they flashed at the beginning of the game yesterday that they had the Reds had the 9th best bullpen in baseball, was at a 337 clip, and I'm sitting there like, when the hell did the Reds bullpen get good?
Yeah, but they hadn't played the Cubs.
That's right. No. That's right.
Listen, you can say everything. The Cubs pitching is not in the top 10 of baseball, but their bats, they might be better than the Yankees, man. Right now, with how where they're at, with how on fire PCA is, and Kyle Tucker obviously being Mr. Consistent, the Cubs are the most dangerous lineup in baseball for me personally. Right now, it might change, but right now, there's not a pitcher in baseball who's like, you know what I want to play tomorrow? I want to play the Chicago Cubs. Look at Hunter Green. Hunter Green was killing it all season, and then he ran into the Chicago Cubs.
You want to know what else? That guy Santillan that came in. He came in he took the bump yesterday with a 1.5 earned run average and like a 0.60 whip. Well, today he's sporting a nice 2.63.
Yeah, Sean. Prediction. After these 6 games with the Cubs in 10 days, the Reds are not going to be in top 10 in overall ERA. And
I have a feeling you might be right.
That's my prediction.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, that game today is there are 3 different start times in this series for the Chicago Cubs in the Queen City, which is very odd. But today they're on at 3:10, and tomorrow you get an early morning tilt at 12:40 for your Memorial Day weekend. And
I hate that. I don't know why every time we go to Cincinnati, we got to play it late. It'll be like 9 p.m., then 4 a.m., and then 5 p.m. I'm like, why does it Cincinnati needs to figure out those start. I think Cincinnati uses their ballpark for something else, and they have to like work around something, because every time we're in Cincinnati, I feel like they're all over the place. I'm like, guys, give us some consistency.
And unfortunately, when this Bears schedule came out, where were they? Week 9. Yeah, unfortunately, I was trying to hopefully go to that game and catch a Reds, not necessarily Cubs, but I wanted to go baseball and then the Bears Bengals, because one of the ballparks I really want to get to is the Great American Ballpark.
No, Sean, it's not off. It's not off the table. Well, we still might make it to that Bengals game.
I'm not saying. I was just saying it won't be a double dip, because I don't think Week 9 is going to be. When was Week 9 last year? November 3rd. Yeah, there won't be no baseball being played in Cincinnati.
No,
November 3rd.
But we could make it to that Bengals game.
Yeah, we might. I'm not ruling it out. I did look up tickets, man, and they were just about as expensive as these bad boys that we have for the Bears and the Vikings on Monday night. So
read it and weep, Bruce. Read it and weep.
Awesome, you bought it already? Nice.
Yeah, I bought them. We did a calculated risk 2 years in a row. We bought them before the schedule release, and it worked out for us. So
Bruce, a lot of math goes into this. It's an elimination process. By default, this has to be week 1, right?
Yeah. That's awesome.
There's always a theme. It's always a theme, and as soon as like some of the other schedules started coming out, and it was all division rivals, I actually thought it was going to be Bears Lions, because how perfect would that have been? With the storylines. Yeah. I wasn't thinking Minnesota, but you know what? I'd probably much rather open against Minnesota than Detroit.
I'd rather see JJ McCarthy. Yeah, for sure. And his first game ever in his career. Yeah, I'd much rather see JJ McCarthy. I got bad news for JJ, but this ain't the bad news Bears anymore. He's not going to start his storied career by winning his first game in the NFL. The Bears are going to beat the Minnesota Vikings on Monday night, no doubt. Oh, thank you so much, James Childress. Thanks to Lindsay. Thanks to Elizabeth. Everybody who joined the the Lions fan, big Lions fan, Tigers fan, obviously. Byrne enjoyed the show today. As always, everybody watching on Twitter, please, if you haven't already, go over to our YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy listening to us, guys. We appreciate you all so much. If it wasn't for you guys, we would not be doing this. Take care of yourselves so you can take care of each other, and go Cubbies.
Yeah,
really quick, Monday. I think all 4 of us will be back on the House Hall Hangover. We'll follow that up on Wednesday with the Barely There podcast. Follow that up on Thursday with the bare minimum, and then you'll see our shining faces right back here next Saturday to recap the Chicago Cubs week. But until then, folks, as Kyle said, take care of yourselves, man. And we love y'all. Thank y'all. Peace. Bear down and go beat some Cincinnati Red ass. Love you guys.
Go Cubbies.
Go Cubs.